Hello guys, welcome to JD Bots. This is a bot series in which we will be communicating with the database using the Microsoft Bot framework. Considering that in our mind, first of all, we'll learn how to communicate with the database using the entity framework. So, using that knowledge, we'll be communicating with the database using the Microsoft Bot framework. So, let's get started. Launch your Visual Studio and I'll create a new project. First of all, I'll create a new solution. Inside that, I'll be creating projects. So let me give as blank solution. Here it is. Sample DB solution. At the right hand side, you can see in the solution explorer that our solution is created with 0 projects inside it. So we'll be adding some projects. Right click on that and add new project. And the first project will be using class library and our class library .NET Core. Okay, and I give it as sample data access layer. So this is the first layer in any application. First the database will be coming, next this data access layer, then after that business layer, then after that service layer, and then after that presentation layer. So this is the first layer where we get the data from the database. I'll create the project. And let me remove this class file. We don't want this one. Okay, now we have our project inside a solution. Next, we'll need some dependencies. For that, we'll have to install some NuGet packages. And I'll install the first one is SQL Server. Yeah, we already have. So entity framework core .sql server. So based on your .NET Core version, you can install the NuGet packages. Since my .NET Core version is 3.1, so here it is showing me as 3.1.7. Based on that, if your .NET Core version is 2.1, then you can install from various versions. Fine. As of now, I'll take it as the latest version and install. I accept. Yeah. And the second will be tools. Here it is. So here we'll get, using this we'll get the package manager console. There we'll have to scaffold so that there is a link between our project and the database. Fine. This also we have installed. Now we'll do the scaffolding task. Before that, we'll have to create the database, right? While installing the Visual Studio, if you have selected the option for the database, then you'll be seeing this option, that is SQL Server Object Explorer. If you don't see it over here, then you can make use of SSMS, that is SQL Server Management Studio. That I'll put the link in the description. You can download it from there. As of now, I have the capabilities in my Visual Studio only, so I'll be using here itself. And this is my local DB. and this is my local DB server, and inside this local DB server I will be creating my database. Once you open it, you'll see the databases. So I'll right click on database and add new database, and the database will be sample DB. Okay, as you can see, yesterday I had created this database questionnaire DB, and now I'll be creating the sample DB. So let's write some query inside our database. Right click on the database and new query. So we'll be just creating a table where we'll keep the employee numbers and their names, right? So I'll create a new table employee, and inside our table let's give some column names. First column name will be employee number, and which is let's say varchar of data type varchar, length let's say 10, and let's give some constraint, and the constraint name will be primary key, and it is employee number, and with that I'll assign it as the primary key. And the second column will be employee name. With this I'll set the data type as varchar, and the length can be let's say 30, because some names are pretty much long. Okay, we have created a table with two columns in it. The first one is employee number, and the second one is employee name. Okay, now let's feed some data. There are two ways in this. Either you can do it like after running the scripts, we'll be having the table coming under this sample DB, and inside tables here we'll be showing this table after running this script. In that case, okay, let's follow this both the approaches. I'll go, and first approach I'll use the insert into table, and the values are, I'll give the first as employee E1001 is my employee number. This goes to the first column, and the second column will be, let's say first employee name is Rob. Fine. And let's add one more. I'll copy this one. Let's add two more. Yeah, 3 will be fine. And here I'll give it the 2, 3. Rob, Bob, Steve. Okay, so let's run the query. Make sure here the database you have created is selected over here. There can be other databases as well, so make sure the database is selected and then you run the query. If you don't want to run the query for all the statements, you select the query and then run it. Okay, as of now I want to have it all, so I'll click on execute, and you'll see the messages over here. Okay, so let's see the data and use another approach to add the table. See, I have executed the query and now it is present over here, DBO table, and Okay, oh sorry, my table name is table. No, let's create another table with the same name. You can modify the table content as well. I'll just copy paste the whole content, control C. Okay, let me directly change it over here, and it is the employee table. Control C, control V. Okay, now let's execute it. Now we'll have the table called employee and the data in it. Refresh this one and open your DB. Wait a second. Query completed with errors. Okay, yeah, this, since the constraint name cannot be repeated, we have to change the constraint name. Yeah, query executed successfully, and let's see it over here. We have the columns, and inside the columns you can see two columns are created, employee number and employee name. Now let's check the data. Right click on this one and view data. See, this three data we have put it using the script, using the query. Let's add the data manually. E1004, and let's say here Tom. Enter. We have another data for employee number 1004, that is Tom. Okay, if you want to save this query, you can save it. Let's save it in our project directory itself, and I'll give as sample db script. It's not compulsory, but if you want to have a look at the query at the later stage and modify the query, then it is useful to save the query. Okay, now we have the data ready, we have the database ready. Now using our programming, we will connect it to the database. So for that we'll use scaffolding. Let me close this one and go to tools, NuGet package manager and package manager console. Okay, so now we'll write our statement. I have already written it over here. Let me copy it and let me just make some changes. So what is your DB name? That is sample DB, and data source will be the server name, and my server name is over here at the right hand side properties. If you cannot able to see it from here, open the SQL server, right click on your server and click on properties. That way you can see it at the right hand side. Now let me copy my server name. So that is a local source. Yeah, and paste it over here inside dot. Even dot corresponds to the local server. In some of the systems, dot is also accepted. So this is my server name, local DB, MS SQL, local DB, and this is my database name. If at all your DB is protected by some key, security key, then there are some connection strings where we give the username and password for the DB. But as of now, our DB is having no security related things. Okay, and this output directory, here models folder will be created automatically inside our project directory. And before running this, make sure you have selected your data access layer as set as startup project, and default project should be data access layer, that is sample data access layer, whichever you have given the name of. Now we'll run this one. Build started, build succeeded, and now it has created a DB context for us. Also along with that, it has created two more files, employee and table. That is, these two are the tables we had created inside our DB. That is why it has created two files. Employee, inside employee we have created employee number and employee name, and by mistake we had created the table with the name table. So we'll ignore as of now this one because we don't want to get confused. Okay, suppose if you write the complex queries where you give the joins and some procedures, then this files will have the reference of other files as well, because joins and the like foreign keys, so in that case we'll have the reference. As of now we have created a simple query with two columns, that's it. Okay, open the DB context, and here you can see the warning message. Just comment this out, and as you can see, this is the connection string. This connection string is directly written in our code, so it's not a healthy practice to write the connection string inside our code, because some connection string may contain username and password. Okay, it's always a good practice we use the app settings.json file to keep all our configuration details data. So let's create one. Right click on the project, add new item, and here we search for JSON, and here the JSON file name we give as app settings.json. Okay, now I've already written the content of it. Let me copy this and paste it. Okay, now we have the connection string over here, and let me give the name as sample db connection string, because there can be more than one connection string, and the database already there, and here database name. Okay, fine. Now coming back to sample db context. Now for that, first we'll have to read this app settings.json and get the connection string, and for that we'll have to make some changes over here. Okay, I've written some code over here. Builder which search for the file called app settings.json in the current directory, and the name of the string is searches for sample db connection string. At last this connection string, so whatever connection string is present over here will be sent as a parameter argument to this one. Earlier the connection string was hard coded, now it is coming from the app settings.json file. So it is showing me some compilation error. Let me import Microsoft extension configuration as well as system.io, and we'll have to add one more dependency. So the dependency name is Microsoft extension configuration JSON, because it allows us to read the JSON files. We have installed it. Let's check whether the error message is gone. Fine. Now let us try to write some code and get the data from it using the link queries. Okay, right click on the sample and add some class files. We'll be creating one class file only. User repository. Okay, I'll make it public so that it will be easier for us to test from other projects that we'll be creating later. That will be the console project. Okay, now let's write some code and create the object for DB context. Okay, now I have created object for the DB object. Let me import this sample data access layer dot models folder, and because inside models folder we have the class sample DB context. Okay, we have created a getter for that which returns a context, and the context is the object of the sample DB context. And now let's write a method which gets the employee name when we give the employee number. Okay, we have written the method which fetch the employee name using the employee number. Fine. So we have created the return type is the object of employee. We have created the object name, employee name, and using this link query you need to import the link library system.link, then only you'll be able to write these queries. So from E in context.employee where employee number is equal to employee number, select E. Okay, so whatever the first response we are getting, we'll save it in employee name and we'll return this. Fine. Now we need to test this whether we are successfully getting the employee name or not. For that we'll create another project, console app. We'll give the name as console app. This console app project in your is really helpful for testing. And inside program.cs I'll remove this hello world and I'll create the object of user repository. So let us import add reference to sample data access layer, and let us create an object of employee, and the returning value will be the employee name equal to user repository. Will call the method fetch employee name, and the value will pass is E1003. So let's see whose employee number is E1003. Here also we'll have to add the reference, import it, and we'll print it on the console. Employee name dot employee name, both you can print. I'll print both. Employee number, let's add some concatenation, and let's print another one, employee name. Fine, let's run this one. Okay, so earlier we had set the data access layer as our startup project, so we need to change it to the console app. Then we'll have to run it. Okay, we are having some issues. Yeah, can you see the configuration file app settings.json was not found? It is not able to find this file. For that, we need to select the app settings.json, right click on that, click on properties, and you see copy to output directory. Change it to copy always and save it. Now again we will run this one. See, employee 1003 is Steve. In the next video, we will use this approach from the Microsoft Bot framework, that is Bot Builder SDK. So that in that case, we don't have to create a data access layer. We will be directly scaffolding from our bot project directory. That's it. So using this approach, you can apply all the CRUD operations like read, delete, update, create. These four CRUD options you can make use of. We have just made use of the read operation. That's it. Just for the understanding purpose. Yeah. Thank you all.